Welcome to the Speed League podcast, Southern California. I'm Kelly Hansen. We're talking about St. Louis Supercross, the Triple Crown today, and also what happened in our fantasy matchup on speedleaguefantasy.com. Check it out if you want to play. It's absolutely free. It's a really unique game. You can play with a group of 4 friends. Supercross season's going on right now. We got outdoor motocross coming up, F1, MotoGP, if those are your things. Check it out. I'm here as always with the man, the myth, and the legend, Ryan Berkman.
How's it going, guys? Hey, real quick before we start, if you're watching on YouTube, please leave us a like, comment, subscribe. We're like a small company, just like trying to put out this podcast, put out this free game, trying to grow Supercross, make it more fun for people that might not be diehard fans. So just please support us. Leave us a comment saying, maybe something that you want us to talk about, something that we didn't talk about, or anything along those lines, and we really appreciate it.
Or something that we said that you think was stupid, as long as you give us a good reason why, we're liable to comment back. This is a free game we put out because we're diehard Supercross fans and want to talk about all this stuff anyways, and want to relate it back to our fantasy game. So that being said, talking about the St. Louis Supercross race, starting with 450 class, what odds would you have given me on Eli Tomac going 1-1-1 in this race?
1,000 to 1. There was nothing showing signs that Eli was going to completely take over this race, which he did get a few breaks, I'm not going to lie. But I mean, the odds for 1-1-1 in a betting setting would have been through the roof.
Yeah. And truth be told, he didn't win the second race, but he was given it after, all the whole fiasco with the Red Cross flag and Vince Freezy and Jett Lawrence and a bunch of other guys getting penalties. But I mean, that aside, he came across the line second in that race and dominated the other two.
Yeah, and really what I took away from it, and I noticed throughout the night, was the sign of someone who is officially just on their game and the fastest guy out there. I mean, Jett Lawrence currently, Tomac in his prime, Carmichael in his prime, Ryan Villapoto, is that they are the fastest dude on the track, and it looks effortless. I mean, it looks like if you just saw them in a bubble, it would look like they're just cruising around, not even really trying that hard. And Jett rides so smooth and just so clean that it's amazing. Okay. Tomac is at that point where it looks like he is going as fast as he can, taking these risks, getting a little squirrely, just going balls to the walls. And he needs to ride like that at this point in his career to even think about keeping up with Jett. But Jett is faster, but it just looks like Jett is going so much slower. So Tomac's definitely at that point where he needs to try hard, be a try harder to, give anything to Jett.
But I think Tomac's always kind of been like that. I mean, that's why he's beast mode. Is he always kind of looks like he's hanging it out, he's going fast. But I totally agree with you. Jett looks like he's crawling all the time. He makes it look so effortless. I mean, he's just so loose and sort of dynamic on the bike, and just soaks up bumps and just does things that it doesn't look very difficult to do until he gets tagged real hard by Justin Barcia, and then he looks like he's unfortunately putting some physical exertion into it.
Yeah, and on that whole incident, I've talked to multiple people about that, trying to get different people's opinions on what they saw and what they think. And actually, it seems like a lot of people are, torn. A lot of people think that Jett was ultimately to blame because right there on the first lap he kind of cut the corner tight, and kind of cut the berm to get a sharp angle back in, and they were saying, hey, that's something that you don't do. It's a known thing that you don't ever do that, especially on the first lap. But then some people are saying, hey, Barcia just went straight across the berm and tagged him. And this is my opinion on the whole thing, is that I think that it's say that you're just driving in your car, minding your own business, and you see a stop sign. Okay. And you kind of halfway stop at the stop sign, maybe a little California roll, and you kind of go through, and then a fucking drunk driver comes at 50 miles an hour and then T-bones you. Okay. Yes, maybe you should have stopped and count to 3, look left, look right, and then proceeded. but that's not what anyone does. Okay. And like in like this situation, Jett was just trying to freaking get a jump on the turn, and Barsha came flying as fast as he could, slammed into her. I think he would have flown off the other side of the berm if Jett wasn't there. It almost saved freaking Barsha like a gnarly injury. Barsha would have slammed into anyone who was going around the turn like they were supposed to. I think that that is 100% on Barsha. He was riding a little over his head, came in a little hot, and it was just wrong place, wrong time for Jett.
Yeah, he came in really hot. I mean, yeah, if you watch back the video, he's fully up on his front wheel trying to get it stopped. I mean, I think at that point he had realized that Jett's taking a tight line through this corner and he's going to go into him. I mean, I think you'll probably agree Barsha didn't mean it to be as severe as it ended up being, but yeah, he was coming in for a bam bam pass.
Like I said, if you're freaking driving home from the bar drunk, you don't mean to kill anyone either, but you have to use some, just reasoning and think, dude, there are 4 people turning right now in this berm. It is the first lap. You should not be going in that hot at that angle, period.
Yeah. And then the other interesting variable that I guess, I mean, some people are discussing is Vince Freezy behind all of them, almost looking like he was going to go up the inside and maybe take out everybody as Vince Freezy does. But I mean, I don't think that was really necessarily a factor here because, I mean, he was able to get it stopped and just kind of crawl around the inside of the corner after Barsha went in a Jett.
Yeah, I mean, like Freezy is like such a shit magnet. I mean, not only was he present and like close by that whole incident, but he was also the reason why they were waving the red cross flag at the end of that second race, and then ended up penalizing all of the top guys and like dropping Anderson back 4 positions, but like also Sexton, Webb, Jett, Plessinger all got 2 position penalties. And that really opened up the door, for like Tomac, obviously, but also guys like Hunter Lawrence, who ended up getting on the podium because those guys were pushed back.
Yeah, what do you think about that whole penalty situation? Because it was a weird and quirky one. Because I mean, first of all, the odd thing was they're holding the red cross flag and not waving it, which I mean, I guess they do sometimes, and that's fine. But it was obviously in an awkward position because everyone's coming out of that final corner, and it's, I mean, the jump face is right in front of you and you're kind of drifting to the left and they're holding out the red cross flag on the right. There's not a lot of time to see that, evaluate it, and realize that you need to go from 100% full race mode to, okay, I'm rolling this jump.
Totally. And also too, it's like there is a flag guy there most laps, or and especially the like, second to last lap and the final lap holding the checkered. So almost when you even see someone last minute coming around like the blind turn and you see someone waving a flag, you don't think to, okay, what flag is this guy waving right now? And look,
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
he's like probably waving the white or the checkered flag like he is every single race that you've ever ridden in your whole life. So it's a very hard spot, and it
and that
shows.
and that was, I mean, that was the last lap and then the checkered
Yeah,
flag lap. I mean, there was a red cross flag
yeah,
with a checkered flag waving right on top of it. Yeah.
yeah,
So but I mean, all that to say, I mean, like, safety is hugely important, and if you need to pull out a red cross flag because someone's down on a big jump like this, I mean, it needs to be acknowledged, because I mean, that's what's, prevents someone who's already hurt or on the ground getting landed on by a 200 something pound bike flying over a jump.
yeah, totally, and I agree with that. But it's just kind of a weird spot, weird situation, and then obviously it like shows how like weird it was because all those top guys who like got penalized, they know the rules. Like a lot of those guys want to follow the rules because they're in the championship hunt. They don't want to be like dock those positions. So I mean, these are smart riders who just didn't realize, So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
Jett
awkward,
figured it out in
a
the
little
air
late.
over
Yeah,
that jump. Like, he looked back and was like, "Oh shit, I see what happened here." Like, he was not trying to. I mean, yeah, he wasn't trying to gain advantage for sure at that point, because at the end of the race he'd won.
yeah, and that's why it's so tough. And of course, like I said, of course, it had to do with Vince Freezy. Poor guy. I mean, almost I'm to the point where I'm starting to feel a little
Poor
sorry
Vince.
for like, well, because like, he is freaking public enemy number one starting from fucking race one, but it's almost getting to the point where
He's
I'm
the
like,
redheaded stepchild.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's getting to the point where I'm like, bro, it's like he's not trying at like this point to be the total, asshole, but it just always always
Tell
turns
that to
out that
Dean
way.
Wilson, though. I
Yeah,
mean, he
yeah,
does.
you're
You
right.
say that, and then all of a sudden, you'll see some clip of him just wrecking some guy and himself too for 15th place, and it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So I don't know. We're not going to spend 20 minutes on Vince Freezy on this podcast. But the one thought I actually did have is, on the Supercross triples on the track, they have the flashing lights if there's a red cross flag and something there. But I don't think they do over the finish line jump. But
No.
there's no reason they shouldn't, especially because they have, the big finish line archway thing there. They should totally just build in some little flashing lights that they can use there too, because then you'd see it on both sides.
Yeah, and like this problem, I guess, doesn't happen enough for it to be like a big investigation into them overhauling everything and changing light structure. But I mean, I like do wonder if like one of these guys is like going to bring it up to the AMA saying, "Hey, maybe this is some like constructive criticism of how we could do this better, or be more seen, especially on the final jump." That they could make it better in the future. But I mean, again, this doesn't happen often where it's just right over the finish line jump. So who knows if they'll do anything
No,
about it.
but I mean, I remember seeing, issues about this before. I specifically remember something with Ken Roxon getting penalized for one of these once and sort of making an argument that like where they were placed and waving the red cross flag, he couldn't really see it. So, I mean, it's a safety concern. And yeah, I mean, I agree. The riders probably, especially when a lot of top guys get penalized for this, they would and should bring it up with the AMA and do what they can to address it. But anyways, we can move on from that. I mean, speaking of Roxon, I know you had some stuff to talk about Roxon. He had an odd and interesting night.
So last week I was talking shit on Roxon's bike for the Kickstarter. It's like completely bullshit that in 2024 he like has that on his bike. And I said that like he has a bad player on his team of like Supercross, which is the bike. Yet again, the bike failed him. And like I was like really thinking
Okay,
about
hold
it.
on though. Hold
What?
on. I mean, didn't he get whacked in like that big the crash at the beginning that Oldenburg caused? Because I mean, he got like. I mean, you saw the video of him like basically getting knocked off the bike and running by the side of it and jumping on. It was actually kind of a cool thing. But I mean, I don't know if anything actually came out from this, but I'm assuming he got something whacked at that incident.
Maybe. I mean, I didn't watch it in like slow motion and see if like the radiator got punctured right at that exact moment. Maybe it did, because obviously for like radiators to like get a hole in them, something needs to, like crack or hit it. But still, it is just such a bad look for like Suzuki. And I was going through some like contracts for like factory teams that I think Roxon should like go to. And I was like just thinking of the like bottom of the barrel factory riders and like what their contract looks like right now. And like these are two contracts that I'll tell you right now that are up at the end of this season that I think Roxon should like really think about. And the only issue with him is who is going to be moving up from 250s to the 450s to like take those factory spots. And the first is Adam Cianciarulo needs
Mm-hmm.
to be dropped and be off factory Kawasaki. And I think that would be a awesome spot for Roxon to like step into and like have Anderson as a teammate, and freaking just like have that complete factory backing on a legit Supercross bike. But then you like think about all the like factory Kawasaki 250 guys that have been kicking ass. I mean, Levi Kitchen. And it just seems like, are they going to move up? Because I would, if I was the CEO of Kawasaki, I would take Kitchen over Roxon, because like the sky's the limit, and getting that like rookie, like setting up his like whole career to kick ass. But it just seems like Kawasaki would be a good spot for him. Also, Christian Craig on the Husqvarna. I mean, he has no business. Okay, listen, Christian, I like love you. Freaking, you're like one of my like favorite guys. I've like seen you at like wineries down in Temecula. My like wife loves your wife. I have no issue with you. I've actually met your dad in like Corona a few times, talked to him, but it's just that ride needs to be opened up for someone a little more competitive. And I think that that might be a good landing spot for Roxon as well. What do you think about those two spots?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is like for both of those teams, they're wanting to fill that spot with someone who's like an up and comer, or I mean, a potential championship contender. And I mean, I don't know if at this point an aging Roxon is someone you're going to put a lot of faith in as a championship contender, rather than just taking a risk, and it is a risk on anyone coming up from the 250 class to fill that seat instead.
I think that Roxon is a championship contender on the right bike. Honestly, I mean, he has speed this year. I mean, he has multiple podiums. He has a race win. He is one of the fastest guys out there on like any given night. And I think that he will give, I mean, especially Husqvarna. I mean, if like RJ isn't coming up, I mean, who else would you want on your team to really, give a spark to that Husqvarna team that's been absolutely struggling and an embarrassment all season? Roxon would give you that spark that you need to like, be a actual competitive brand.
It would be fun to see Ruxin on Husqvarna, Kawasaki, either one of those. But I mean, you have to think also. I mean, he chose the Suzuki. I mean, when he was having bad blood with Honda and leaving his Honda factory ride that he was on for like the longest time. I mean, he was kind of just like a free agent, and obviously his options were limited, based on what contracts had already been filled. But he went and rode the Suzuki, loved it, was really happy with it, knew he was getting into the kickstart, and obviously, I'm sure if he could snap his fingers and have an electric start on that bike, he would. But aside from that, I think he likes the bike. I mean, he openly talks about that he's very comfortable with the setup and that everything's really good on it.
I mean, like most people who are like currently on the team say, "Oh no, like the bike." Oh, well, okay, I wouldn't say always because, like, yes,
But
there are
his
some
results are
people.
speaking for themselves
Yeah.
too. I mean, he got a win recently. Like, I mean, he's not riding like the bike is holding him back. Besides when he has to kick the damn thing.
I mean, he would be way better off on a different bike, and the fact that he's doing so well on the Suzuki should actually speak to that, his like potential on a different manufacturer. And the whole thing with him picking picking Suzuki, I like get that, but he was almost just like betting on himself, and was like pissed off at like different manufacturers and said, you know what, I'm going to go to Suzuki and prove it to these guys. He totally bet on himself, and it hasn't been a failure. But I mean, like you said, if he could snap his fingers and like maybe just like swallow his pride a little bit and like look for a different, bike, I bet he would. But that's in the
Okay,
past.
so I mean, Roxon with a 12th overall. Obviously not a good night for Roxon. 18th in the first race. After obviously the issue that he had, but then 13.5 after that. Yeah, for 12 overall. I mean, there was some sort of talk that obviously when he's having that issue with his bike, that shook him off his rhythm and put a little sort of fear of can he trust the bike. Uh, I guess for the rest of the night was sort of what some people were talking about. But I mean, Roxon kind of seems to me that everything sort of needs to be lining up right, and he's easy to get thrown off his rhythm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, totally. And like in that like second race, once he brought out that like brand new bike that I hadn't been ridden all weekend, he like, ended up getting a 13th and was battling with like Benny Bloss the whole race. I even like kind of wrote that down. I was like, oh wow, Rock's in an intense battle with Benny Bloss. But like I would think that on that second race that was his backup bike that like hadn't been ridden, and like there was some maybe setup issues. Like after that race he said, hey look, we need to tweak this, stiffen this, take some psi out of this, and then he ended up getting a fifth. I mean, that's where he should be finishing every single race. And, it just pains me, not only because I have him on my fantasy team, and also he was my podium lock during the podcast last week because I just saw such awesome, like consistency and in like triple crowns. He's a good starter. He's a dog. I mean, I had him as my podium lock, and for going 18-13-5 isn't really what I expected. But, I'd say next week, probably in that fifth spot, fifth or fourth. I mean, that's where he should be if everything goes according to plan.
Okay. Um, And then, I mean, we haven't even brought up at all. I mean, Cooper Webb got second place, ended up there after a 5.62. Yeah, not a super flashy night for Cooper Webb, but closes the championship gap, with Jett ending up in eighth place overall after what happened in the last main event. Cooper Webb closes the championship to, I think, 8 points now. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
huge for Webb on a, again, not very flashy night.
Yeah, and like luckily for Jett, this was a triple crown because getting last place or like whatever it was in that third race, it only took him down to eighth. And if like that was like a regular main event, he would have lost a lot more points, and freaking Webb would have had the points lead. Um, so Jett kind of got like lucky on that. Webb not so lucky, but again, Webb's just always there riding his race, and even when his night doesn't really go according to plan. I mean, like no one's night goes according to plan on these like triple crowns most of the time, except Tomac last night. But still, Webb's just the king of consistency. He's like always there, and yeah, I mean, I'm very curious to see if Jett, has any lingering injuries or if he's not riding himself. Because like, there's no way that he's going to come back after this like bye week. It's almost like a blessing for Jett. Also, he has another week to like heal up, but like he will be back. I mean, 100% 2 weeks from now. Regardless if he has a broken arm, a broken rib, or a collapsed lung, he's not letting this championship get away from him. But I am curious to see if it's going to affect his riding.
Yeah. And, I mean, the fact that he finished the race and, was riding around the track, jumping all the jumps, like that was confidence inspiring. It's not like he finished in 21st place, but he at least didn't get carted off the track or just have to ride off or anything like that. So, yeah, haven't seen any news about Jett actually, announcing he got any injuries or anything like that. So hopefully, yeah, again, with a week off, he should be totally fine. But I mean, just goes to show, as soon as it starts seeming like Jett's going to run away with this thing, or Supercross is chaotic. Things happen, and I mean, just like that,
Quick.
Webb is right back in this. So, okay, so Webb second, rounding out the podium. Hunter Lawrence sneaks by for his first podium with, let's see, it was a 8.24 finish for third overall.
Yeah, and he like even could have got second place if he didn't biff it, in freaking race one out of the lead. It like, was a good night. Um, I mean, like, if you like just look at results, you could say, "Oh wow, freaking Hunter Lawrence on the gas, third place podium." But I didn't really see anything from him that I would think that he's going to back that up 2 weeks from now, or that now you need to start bumping him up to like fourth place predicted or podium predicted. I think that like this was a little fluky, and he got lucky to like kind of finish where he did. He like kind of like was in like the right place in the right time where other people weren't. And props to him. Third place, awesome, best finish of the season. But I don't think that this is going to be a new trend for the older Lawrence brother.
Yeah, I don't expect him regularly on the podium, but I mean, I want to give him a little bit more credit than you do, which is, I mean, he has been putting himself in the right place at the right time. I mean, he's riding well enough to capitalize. And we've talked about this exact thing on the podcast before. He's capitalizing on the chaos of Supercross when other of the top guys go down. He's getting good enough starts a lot of the time and riding fast enough that he can capitalize on those. And I mean, in this case, it ended up a podium. So that's awesome for Hunter Lawrence. I have him actually as my deeper pick for next week because he actually, I mean, it's kind of crazy because we're sort of expecting to see him in this, 5 to 8 range now. I think you'd probably agree with that, but he's in 10th place in the points. He's actually pretty far back. But I wanted to pick him as my deeper pick, partly because I'm looking at his recent results, which on the website, if you're playing in your matchup, you can click on any rider and it'll open up a pop up and you can see their last 5 race results. His last 5 were 21st in Daytona, a DNF or didn't start in Birmingham, then 11.73. So, I mean, obviously trending in the right direction, but completely all over the map. This is what we call a rider that's hard to predict to get your prediction points in our fantasy game because, you get a 5 point bonus for guessing someone dead on, but good luck doing that with Hunter Lawrence right now. But if you got him on your team, I mean, he's getting good finishes and you kind of have to work with that. So I would probably put him at around a seventh, maybe a sixth if he looks good in qualifying next week, is sort of where I expect to predict him, but definitely a hard prediction to make for Hunter Lawrence.
Well, like when you get 21st place and then a like DNS, it is hard to trend in any other direction other than up. I mean, really, if you look at his whole season, I mean, like literally, he's just all over the place. I mean, trending in like the right direction, trending in the wrong direction. I mean, he got 2/5 in a row before that run of 21st DNF 11th. I mean, it's like he's just the like opposite of like Cooper Webb, where he is one of the hardest guys to predict. And I feel like instead of going sixth or seventh, like you said, I mean, I would probably go more towards like the eighth range, just because even after like a race like this, I would like him more, at the eighth. It just seems like he's all over the place, and I don't see any chart or like trending in like any direction whatsoever. So he's definitely one of the toughest to predict.
Okay. Yeah, prediction's hard. I'll agree with you there. Anybody else in the 450 class? Aaron Plessinger did pretty good in fourth place. Sexton had a weird race too, where he got passed by a bunch of guys. I mean, like Cooper Webb, Justin Cooper, and Jason Anderson, and then ended up coming back and making a fifth. Obviously, 10th place in the first main, ruined him because he got stuck in that big pileup on the first lap with Mitchell Oldenburg, and that basically cost him the entire night. But I guess a night to move on from for Chase Sexton. I've got him on my team. I'm still probably going to hold strong with about a third prediction for him.
Yeah, Kelly, I want to move on and talk about Levi Kitchen, because it is disrespectful to talk in this podcast for 30 minutes without mentioning frickin' the dominance of Levi Kitchen. I mean, it is next level. Turning it on and like really in like my eyes,
the kitchen is open.
Yeah, the kitchen is open. The
kitchen is open. Grab your spatula, fire up your crock pot,
preheat the oven to 450 degrees.
All the terrible kitchen puns are coming in, but I mean, he's earning every single one of them.
He, to me, at this point now, he is my favorite. Both coasts. I don't care if it's frickin' McAdoo, Hammaker, frickin' Anstey, Deegan, Smith. Frickin' Kitchen is the top dog, real deal. My money would be on him. He is not only winning races, he is dominating races, getting whole shots in those races, not even looking behind him. And he is like so much props to him, because he didn't come in as like one of these top guys that like everyone thought, okay, this is the championship contender, this is the top dog. He had to earn that spot, and earn it he's done, because I mean, I'm just so impressed with Kitchen. Actually, I'm in two speed leagues, and the one that I'm in, I played someone that had Levi Kitchen and Eli Tomac. Needless to say, I got blown out from 6 first place finishes in a row. But yeah, I mean, freaking Kitchen's the man.
First of all, I don't like when you talk about your other fantasy leagues on our podcast, but I'll tolerate it this time. Look, I've got Kitchen on my team. He's it's crazy, and I've been really hesitant to move him up to a first place prediction, but it's kind of undeniable at this point. I think I'm going to have to do it because he's so dominant. I mean, doesn't it seem like though he's made a big step since West came back from their break?
Yeah, and like really, I don't know if like that's just happenstance or if he had some, come to Jesus moment or like figured something out on the bike or like figured something out with himself. But yeah, I mean, it like definitely does look that way. It's like since the break, he's had 2 ones in a row, one of which he won by 20 seconds. Um, I mean, but before
And
the
I mean,
break,
this is almost more impressive than that to win 3 triple crowns. I mean, to lock
yeah,
out the entire triple crown. You got 22nd win one week, 1-1-1 the next week. That is pretty undeniable.
yeah, I mean, even before the like break, I mean, he was only off the podium one time in like San Diego, like the complete, shit show mud race. So I mean, even from Anaheim one, I mean, he was on the podium. So like he's been there the whole time, and then I mean, yeah, like you said, since the break, 1-1, hard to deny that. But yeah, freaking first place predicted. I wish I had him on my team. He's crazy.
Something I didn't know actually about Kitchen that they mentioned on the broadcast is he's actually 23 years old. He's a little older than I expected him to be. I think he just kind of got a late start in Supercross, but you watch the 250s and especially someone who's only been in the class a couple years like Levi Kitchen has. I mean, you expect these guys to be 18, 19 years old because I mean that's sort of when a lot of them are starting, but he's 23 finding his speed and has that a little bit more age and maturity. I mean, it's a pretty unstoppable combo. But I mean, anyways, all that to say, we think Levi Kitchen is going to continue doing well. And the next time we're going to see him is, I mean, I don't want to get into this too much yet because we got another week of racing before it, but there's an East West showdown after the next race. I mean, is anyone from either 250 region going to touch Levi Kitchen? Do you think he's better than anybody?
I'm super excited for this race. Every year, it's almost like a build up to see him both these coasts in like one race. But I mean, like I said, I think Kitchen has that in the bag. Like as long as he like gets a decent start, I think that he has that one in the bag. I don't see anyone keeping up with him.
Okay, so 250s, second place, Joe Shimoda with a 233. Awesome.
Yeah, and like he was kind of, for like the whole season, he was lingering back, in that like fourth, fifth spot, like the whole time, and it just seems like he's, you know, I mean, I don't know if he's like figured something out, but he looked good. I mean, great. He was holding off freaking RJ Hampshire for like a lot of those races. And like, RJ was the like number one guy coming into this season. So just seeing Joe able to hold off someone as fast as Hampshire was just really awesome to see. And like now Joe Shimoda for the last 3 races, 3 podiums in a row. So it's hard to argue with that. So I'm stoked for him.
Yeah, I still think Hampshire was faster. Hampshire was just putting himself into bad positions. I mean, the first 2 races, he ended up fourth in both of those. And yeah, one of them, Shimoda held him off until the end. But that's what was happening. Joe was holding him off, even though RJ seemed to be faster. It wasn't enough that he could make the pass. Yeah, RJ, I mean, got to get better starts. But I mean, even with that, like it doesn't look like he has the speed that Kitchen has right now. But I mean, I'm still, assuming RJ is probably the second fastest guy in the class. He just has to position himself better.
RJ and Jordan Smith both are on the outside looking in at this point. They don't really have anything to like give to Kitchen. It's just them like hoping that Kitchen makes a mistake. I mean, I don't even feel like they're like fast enough at this point to like catch him and pass him. I mean, it's just waiting for like Kitchen to make a mistake. Um, who would have thought coming in to this season like Hampshire and Smith were playing catch up, but yeah, it I mean does happen sometimes when just like someone out of nowhere comes in and well, I mean I shouldn't say out of nowhere, right? I'm like Kitchen, what was he like ranked in our official Speed League rankings prior to the opening race? Do you remember?
I'll pull it up, but it was probably around fifth if I were to guess. I'll find it. Give me a sec.
Yeah, so it's not like he
But
came out of nowhere, but to go from, fifth and like really everyone thinks that you're like the fifth fastest guy to be head over heels faster than like everyone else. That just shows great improvement, great work ethic, just like everything you could say about this guy.
You know what? Actually, we had him ranked third. That's
Oh, wow.
pretty good for
Good
us.
job,
Yeah,
us.
yeah. I
Smart.
yeah, I know, right? That's pretty good rankings. But no, I mean, he's for sure performing better than what we would expected. I mean, so I mean, let's assume he continues this season and wraps up the championship. I still think he should do. I mean, I don't think there's any necessarily any opportunity that he's going to move up to 450s next year, but I probably wouldn't anyway. I would give him one more year. And I know we always have this argument. I would give him one more year to really get comfortable and just be in dominating form in the 250 class and then not move up to 450s too prematurely.
Yeah, like normally I'm the guy that says the like quicker you move up to like 450, the better. Because to me, I mean, it seems like so many people dominate 250s and then move up to the 450s and are just a guy, getting 10th or like 12th every race. And I feel like the like sooner that you get up there, just like the more you could learn and the more almost leeway that you have on your team. And so you could say, okay, well, he like is young or he is like learning the bike. And it just gets you in that premier spot to just learn how to ride and race in the premier class sooner and earlier. Like I was a big, fan of like Jett actually moving up to the 450s 1 year earlier, even though he like dominated 250s. And oh my gosh, Jett's the man. Jett's so cool. Jett got so many more TikTok followers from like winning the 250 championship. But it's like he's so dominant this year that like what would have happened to him if he would have come into the 450s 1 year earlier? Like I feel like he wouldn't be too far behind, and then he just have another year on his belt of knowledge.
Yeah, I don't know. And I mean, I'll disagree with you still. I mean, I think Jett moved up at the right time. And I mean, it was high time for him to move up after basically winning 4 championships in a row with Supercross and outdoor motocross 2 years in a row. But I think spending enough time in that 250 class and kind of honing your skills before you jump into the big pond will actually serve you well rather than going in too early, too young, too inexperienced and kind of, I mean, getting clobbered, maybe injuring yourself badly because you're pushing harder, trying to keep up with these faster guys. I think there's a balance there. But yeah, look, I don't think there's any talk that I know of Levi Kitchen moving up for next year. But I mean, it's awesome that we can have this conversation now. That look, he's so fast. I mean, this is going to be a competitor in the 450 class at some point in the not too distant future.
Yeah, and like really, if you look at, like I kind of mentioned at the beginning of this, who is on the 450 factory team that I'm sure that he would like to move up to. I mean, I don't think that Cianciarulo's getting like another, a ride, like another contract for another 2 years. And it seems like Kawasaki might just reach out and say, hey, look, I know that you might want to do one more year, but we want to fill this spot and we want it to be you. And it's hard to say no to that, but we're just speculating. Who knows what's going to happen, but we'll see.
Okay. So I also wanted to talk quickly about Julian Beaumer, who ended up 7th place, which is really right about where we predict someone like Julian Beaumer. He's being really, really consistent. I had a weird little flop with Julian Beaumer where Michael Moseman came back to race for Star Yamaha in the 250s. I picked him up last week and ran him. He had an okay week last week, and then ended up dropping Julian Beaumer, who I had on my team this week, in favor of Michael Moseman. Moseman obviously gets hurt, and I think the second main event and finishes not great. 18th overall after not finishing the second one and not coming back for the third one. Don't know what his injury status is yet. If he's even going to continue riding, it's going to be a real bummer if Moseman, comes back after what happened last year and then does 1.5 races and is out for all this time. But now I'm back to Julian Beaumer because Julian Beaumer is consistently good and I can predict him around a 7th every week with confidence.
Like something that I didn't know about him was that he's only 17 years old. And like he is for sure my like rookie of the year. I mean, out of like either coast, he is super consistent. I mean, he has 4 seventh place finishes in a row. I mean, to be so young and to be so consistent, and I mean, kind of like we talk about on here a lot, is that he he's not riding over his head. He like knows, okay, I'm about a seventh place finisher. I'm not going to push it. Even when he was in the lead and then got the whole shot of like race one, you see so many times the like slower guy that like, gets a whole shot, they crash 80% of the time because they're like, oh shit, this guy's right on my ass. Oh man, I'm leading, I'm going to get it. And then freaking over the bars. But like he just kind of said, okay, I'm like going fast, looking good, and he slowly drifted back, even though he like looked freaking amazing. He looked fast as balls, but he just kind of drifted back and still averaged out to a seventh, and that's where he should be. But I was impressed at his, kind of just even at 17, he was able to realize, hey, I'm just going to reel it in and just secure a seventh.
Yeah, and that first race, he was fighting pretty good for his lead. And then I think sort of once he got past, then all of a sudden, I mean, he got passed by like 3 guys in one turn
Yeah.
after that and kind of dropped back quickly. But I mean, yeah, getting really good starts and then sort of fighting up front and sticking it out. Yeah, I mean, that's a guy that especially at 17, we're going to see, next year probably make a big step and I mean, probably be a podium and or championship contender in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Okay, you got anybody else specifically you want to talk about in the 250 class, or we want to get into some predictions for next week, or not next week, but we actually have a bye week. So coming back in 2 weeks, and we're hopping back to East Coast Supercross again for Foxborough.
So I wanted to talk about actually East Coast Supercross Foxborough for my podium lock of the week. I'm going Cameron McAdoo. He has 4 podiums in a row, coming off his first win of the season, and I think he is the like guy to beat in this East class. I'm like Vial was kind of sneaking up there with his 2 wins in a row, but I mean I think that still McAdoo is my championship favorite, my like number 1 fastest guy. With that being said, he is a podium lock, but I would still predict him 2 because you never know if Deegan maybe has some, crazy fast lines. Vial maybe gets a like awesome start and like runs away with it. But Cameron McAdoo, lock it for sure on the podium next week or 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, and finished second 3 of the last 4 races besides the last one that he won. So yeah, second's a pretty safe prediction. I'm picking Vial for my podium lock, but I mean, you really can't go wrong with either one of these guys. They're the 2 clean-cut favorites in this championship right now. Vial also on the podium for all 4 of the last 4 races, and 2 of those were wins. So I mean, Vial's up there too, again, because him and McAdoo are so close and competitive, and someone like Deegan is competitive in there as well. I'm not going for a first place prediction. Second place also for Vial. One of them's going to get second place. I'd put some money on it.
I'm sensing a little cheeseburger bet here, Kelly. We have 1 and 2 in the championship in points. You want to give me McAdoo and you have Vial for the top overall finisher? Little
Yeah, I'm going to
cheeseburger
start
deal.
claiming some of these cheeseburger bets,
I don't know
but
what you're talking
I'm
about.
in. So is this just whichever one of them finishes better? Is that what we're
Yeah,
doing here?
yeah.
Okay. All right. Sold. I'm in.
Let's do it.
Okay. But yeah, so I mean, interesting to see what Deegan's going to do coming up. If we're going to see some danger zone as well, but yeah, I'm betting on either a McAdoo or Vial win on this next race, and that'll set up an interesting one going into the showdown the week after for East and West. But some good racing coming up as this championship sort of moves along. If you're playing along in your fantasy league at home, I hope your team's doing well. I just managed to get you'll actually notice if you look at your main standings page and you're doing well enough at this point, you've got a little trophy next to your name on the standings page. That means you've clinched a seat in the championship round. Basically, if you're not playing our game, how it works is we're going head to head with everybody in our league or with one of the other players in your league every week in a matchup. And the two teams that have the best win-loss records at the end of the year go together for all the marbles in the championship showdown. I'm 10-2 right now and locked for the championship. You're 2 races out of second place with only a few left. Are you going to be able to make something happen against Whole Shot King? He's got a strong team.
To be honest, I'm a realist. I mean, this season hasn't been what I was hoping and dreaming for. But it was just a little bad luck. I mean, fantasy, anything is, half luck, half skill. And it wasn't for lack of effort. I was on that waiver wire picking up all these guys, doing all the deep research to try to, predict well, find who's going to be the next top guy. But I just got unlucky. I have Ferrandis who has some mysterious illness for the past, 3 weeks, and he's been gone. I had Dean Wilson get hurt. I had Voland and all these people just disappear on me. So, it's hard to win when you ain't got no guys. So that's about where I'm at.
All right. You heard it here first. Ryan has given up on this fantasy season effective today. Just a few races left. Now's where all the marbles really count. But play it speedleaguefantasy.com. We'll post our matchup results so you can see all the insanity happening in our league, and there has been some this season. We're actually going to be in Austin at the MotoGP race when this next race is happening. But we'll for sure watch and have some comments once we get back to the podcast studios. But unless there's anything else, we will see you for the next one in Foxborough.
Good luck, guys. Home stretch. Finish strong.